What's up, everyone? I'm Whoopin' Long COVID. Today, we're going to talk about energy levels and more specifically ATP. So for me, one of the biggest challenges that I'm facing is this just chronic, debilitating fatigue. And I am talking fatigue that you cannot get out of bed and you can't will yourself through it. You know, I've run dozens of marathons, and you hit that point in a marathon, or you hit that point in the gym where you're getting tired, and you can overpower it with your mind and push through that wall. With this, you can't. It's physically impossible to do it. And the reason for that primarily relates to how your body produces energy. And so the primary production of energy is through a molecule called ATP. And ATP is resident in every single one of your cells. It stands for adenosine triphosphate. And what happens is when you're doing things and you need energy to breathe or to physically exert yourself, to do a push-up, to lift something heavy, whatever, the mitochondria in your cells splits that adenosine triphosphate into adenosine diphosphate, and it releases a phosphate, and that is what powers, that generates power for your body to work, for your muscles to activate and to do what it needs to do. And then the mitochondria uses your food to convert back into ATP. And one cell is able to convert, let's call it maybe 10 million ATP molecules per second. So your body, it's kind of like a just a demand thing. It's like if you have a car, you don't put 1,000 gallons of gas in the gas tank. You put 20 gallons of gas in the gas tank and you use it up, and then imagine your ATP as you're sort of filling the gas tank as you use it. It's just in time energy levels, which is great. And this works. However, what happens with long COVID is your ability to regenerate ATP is radically reduced. So what happens is as you use up the ATP in your cells, as you convert it into ADP and you get that energy, you're not regenerating it. So once you empty the gas tank, that's it. You're done. And you can't will it. Because it's literally a physical guardrail that prevents you from doing this. This is, I was talking about how, like, if I push it too hard, if I run my ATP to zero, I immediately fall asleep, no matter where I am or what I'm doing, and I will sleep anywhere from 30 minutes to 12 hours, depending on how depleted I've become. So the question becomes, like, how do you try to increase ATP? Well, one of the ways that you can increase it is through exercise. The problem is I can't exercise because I don't have enough ATP. Actually, yesterday I was feeling cocky because I had done 15 minutes of Tai Chi on Wednesday, and I was feeling cocky, and I was like, you know what? I bet you I could try some yoga. And so I started doing yoga, and I got into it, and I started feeling, man, you don't have this. I'm very aware of the signs of ATP depletion now, having had it happen to me a bunch of times. And so I was like, okay, push through. I couldn't push through. So finally I stopped, and I looked at my stopwatch to see how long I made it. I made it for 4 minutes. For me, trying to build up ATP through exercise is going to be difficult. And so there's a number of things that you can do to create energy. And we'll talk about some of these and later things. Just drinking coffee, for example, is going to give you some energy. But for me, one of the things that I found to be the most useful is NAD+. Now, NAD+ is a compound that's naturally occurring in your cells, and it is the precursor to how the mitochondria interact with the ADP through the transition to ADP and then back into ATP. And so you can actually take NAD+, and many people have. This supplement's been around for many, many years, and people historically have used it for like anti-aging protocols and increasing telomere length, or actually maybe maintaining telomere length and decreasing the decrease in length. And so it's nothing new. So I played around with this. There's really 3 modalities. So modality 1 is taking pills, taking capsules, NAD plus capsules. They're fine. They're reasonably inexpensive. You can get them from a lot of different sources. Like with any unregulated supplement, you're going to see differing quality levels. But they're easy. You can carry them around with you. If you have to travel, you can put them in your pocket all day long. You can pop them. So that's the upside of the capsule approach. The downside is that when you take NAD in a capsule form, you only really get about 5% absorption of it. So it's helpful, but it's not really a needle mover unless you're gobbling handfuls of these fucking things all day long. But it's better than nothing. And I was doing that for a while. And then I realized there's probably better ways to do it. The second modality for getting NAD plus is to do injectables. So you take a syringe, you inject it. And with that, you're able to get probably 80% absorption rate. So if you're taking, 100 milligram capsules of NAD, you're getting 5 milligrams. If you're taking a 100 milligram shot, you're getting 80. So, it's orders of magnitude better than a capsule. Now, the downsides of that are, number one, if you're not cool with needles, which I'm not a huge fan of needles, which is ironic because of all the tattoos I have, but for some reason it's different if it's on the outside of your body as opposed to going into your body. So it's needles. It's not inexpensive. You can go to many health spas and they'll give you an injection. It'll be anywhere from $100 to $200 for one injection. And there are some side effects. So NAD is a derivative of niacin. And if you've ever taken niacin, you'll notice like you can get this flush where your skin turns bright red and it itches and it kind of burns a little bit. You definitely can get that from NAD, and you can also get a lot of nausea. And so, for me, that's kind of the tax that I have to pay, knowing that I want to do an NAD injection. I know, okay, I'm probably going to get a little bit of flushing and burning and a little bit of nausea. However, it's like rocket fuel. For me, anyways, when I do an NAD injection, it almost directly correlates with having high energy for the rest of the day. I currently, I subscribe to a service where they send me vials of NAD, and then I can choose to do as much as I want, as often as I want. Right now, what I'm doing is I'm doing 100 milligrams at a time. And I'm experimenting with doing it like every other day versus every day. And I'm continuing to experiment with, should I do 150 one day and then 50 the next? Should I do 150, skip a day? I haven't really dialed it in yet. This week, I'm actually doing 100 milligrams every single day just to see what will happen. And so far, that seems to be working out pretty well for me. The last modality for NAD plus is an IV infusion. And with an IV infusion, you're going to get probably more like 90% absorption or maybe even higher because you're taking it intravenously as opposed to intramuscularly. And you can take more. So typically you can go up to 1,000 milligrams in an IV infusion. Most places won't go that high. Certainly not until they've experimented with you and seeing what your personal tolerance is. The most that I've ever done in an IV infusion is about 500 milligrams. The downsides of the IV infusion are, number one, you got to go somewhere. You got to get it done by a nurse or a doctor. And so that takes time. The second thing is when you're doing it, when the IV's coming in, those side effects that I talked about, the flush and the nausea, get amplified significantly. And so you can manage that by controlling the drip levels of the IV. So if you turn it down really, really low, you'll get less of that, but then it takes forever. It's like the last IV infusion I did, it took me 3.5 hours just sitting there. drip, 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 drip. And every time I'd turn it up, the nausea would kick in and it would suck. So that's a problem. And then the other downside of it is cost. It typically you're going to pay probably $500 for an IV infusion. So if you're doing a couple of those a week, you're looking at $4,000 a month just in NAD infusions. So ultimately, having experimented with all of these, for me, what I found that works the best is subscribing to this service. It costs me $200 a month, and then I take the injections at home. And for me, this has been probably the single biggest impact on getting more energy in the short term. Now, that being said, I'm not addressing the root cause with this. I'm addressing symptoms. I'll take it, but it's not necessarily the long-term view. Anyway, stay tuned. I'll talk about some other stuff later.